Welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Show with Ryan Greenberg and Nick Kalfas. How you doing, Zasha?
What's up, guys? Aloha.
Aloha.
Kakahiaka.
Yeah.
Thank you for meeting us out here.
We are back, another episode in the Sea Shack. Can't say that.
Shed.
Can't say that. Sea Shed.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Another episode of the Everyday Millionaire Show. We're here to invest with Zasha on Instagram, local Maui investor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. The weather's nice.
Yeah, we got nervous because when we were looking at the weather, it didn't look so good last week when we were coming in, and we had been blessed.
I don't think because it showed it was going to rain like
every day,
but it didn't rain at all.
Oh, we come all the way here from the East Coast just to have rain all day.
It was storming, but you guys are.
We came in a good time. Yeah, awesome. So, Zasha, tell us about your business now, where you're at now, how much real estate you own, what's your position in your organization, and then we're going to press the rewind button and go back to where you started and everything in between.
Love it. Love it. So today I am involved as a co-GP in 4 different multifamily syndications that range from 100 to over 200 units. And I own my own personal properties, about 11 of them here on Maui. I have 6 flip projects going on in Hawaii and in the States. And then also am JVing on an RV park, 45 pad site, and then also on a 15-unit office building.
Awesome.
Wow. You got a lot going on.
Just a little.
So for your syndications, are you just a passive investor in those syndications?
No. So what we actually do is we raise capital outside of the original investment and come in and negotiate a co-GP position depending on the amount of capital we bring into the deal.
Okay, great. And the other places, I know you have something too. You're investing in how many different places? Let me just ask that first.
How many? I haven't counted yet, but probably about 12 different states.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who manages all that in the different areas? And then how do you find those deals in those areas?
So as far as my short-term flips go, it's partnerships with other people that I've known throughout the years that are experienced investors or experienced flippers that they might need, gap funding and then negotiate like a 50-50 partnership. They might not qualify for the loans in order through their net worth or because they have too many loans out at that time. So they're more needing help on the capital side. And so that's where I kind of come in, or they need help raising the last, money for that deal, and they can't do it unless they have it. And so that's where I kind of come in, is almost like the emergency part. But I do have a partner in Vegas who we're going to try to hit that market hard. We have 3 deals going on right now, and they're more so on the luxury side. And I think people come to me because I am used to kind of doing $1 million flips here because that's the average home price.
Yeah.
And so when they see those numbers and they're used to doing, flips that are like 200,000 or 300,000, a bigger project that requires more capital is a little scary. So they need or they want that person, that partner with them to kind of
spread the risk a little bit. Yeah.
Can you quickly run through like what a flip looks like here in Hawaii as far as like an average purchase price? How much is the renovation cost? And then how much you're selling it for on the back end?
So typically for like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and this all depends on the deal itself because they are far and few between, but that's how I was able to build my capital so quickly is I was able to buy a home for about $450,000. We can put about 100 to 150 depending on the finishes or where it's at, and then it sells at around $1 million or a little over that.
That's pretty good. And then how are you funding? Are you funding that with your own funds? Are you getting hard money, private money?
So it's a combination. So initially, I was using only private money, and people here, they have a lot of equity in their homes that they don't even realize. And so once I bring that to the table, or other investors who don't want to do all the legwork and are thinking of passively investing, or they don't want to deal with headaches because contractors, especially here, you see the ocean. They might want to go surfing one day and decide not to work. So
that's my follow-up question to this. This is literally this is the perfect lead into my question. We've been here for a few days now, and people that look like they are able-bodied and should be at work are not at work during the week. How hard is it to find and manage people to work for your projects here on this island?
It's difficult, and that's why I only have 2 more projects in Hawaii, and the other 4 are in the mainland, and as I continue to grow, it probably won't be here, and just because the market is the way it is right now, it's a little bit more unstable as far as with the interest rates fluctuating, us not knowing, when the buyer is actually gonna close on the house. That led me to go to the mainland. But here I was able to do some creative financing. So there's a lot of older homes here that people own outright, and the sellers are now able to come into the position to finance the deal and become like the bank themselves. So I've done that before, and also novations where you partner with other homeowners. They keep the loan in place. You bring the renovation funds. So I've done that with private money, bring the renovation funds, and then we decide what the split is going to be at the end, and then sell the home as well.
Huh.
That's a good idea.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the rentals that you have here, are they short-term rentals or are they long-term rentals?
So I have 10 long-term rentals and 1 short-term rental.
Okay.
So they make sense as a long-term rental.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of them, I am able to turn them into multiple units. Like, this is a great story. So, there's one that's right next to Heather, Brandon Turner's wife's best friend's house. And they had been driving past it for over a year. He was saying, "Oh, I need to really knock on that door." It's the typical home that is in distress where there's broken down cars. The garage door is half cranked open. You can tell that there's maintenance that hasn't been done on the house. And so I was driving past it. I immediately seen it. We approached the homeowner, ended up getting that under contract, got that under contract for $375, and it's a 2-story home. And so the bottom is a garage, and then had a living area, and then the top had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath area as well. And so we got that under contract, put about 250 into it, turned it into 2 3-bedroom units.
Wow.
And then it's now renting for $6,000. And that HELOC that I just closed on 4 HELOCs, or opened 4 HELOCs for different properties here. And for that specific property, it was worth, I think we just got it appraised at 1.1 million.
Nice.
Wow.
So are you buying these properties in your personal name or an LLC?
So majority of the time I'll buy it in an LLC. And then if I want to get a HELOC, then I'll quick claim deed it into my personal name and then do the HELOC that way.
Nice.
And they're giving you HELOCs on investment properties? They know it's an investment property?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If I open 4 at one time, then they
Yeah,
know that
that's what
I can't live 4 places.
yeah. I think we've tried to like get one on a rental property and it's just never like worked. I
Hmm.
feel like the one bank that we've spoke to, they were like, we can bundle like equity from 5 houses into like a line of credit essentially,
Right.
but not like a HELOC, a real HELOC. And it was going to be a much higher rate than what you're probably getting on a HELOC.
Yeah. So I just closed on that HELOC last week or a week and a half ago. And I started the process about a month and a half ago. And at that time, the rates were 3.75
A month
for
and
a
a half
5
ago?
year. Yeah. For a 5-year term. And then it goes to a variable rate. But in that time, because I have other HELOCs as well and other properties, and in that time, the banks would usually offer you to close on a fixed rate or like extend it longer and offer you
Hmm.
special terms in the interim because
Mhm.
you already have a loan with them or a line
Nice.
of credit.
That's pretty cheap. I mean, even a month and a half ago, where we're at, it was
But then it
what,
goes
like,
to, she said it went to a variable rate after that. That's kind of
Yeah.
like the hook, line, and
after
sinker.
5 years, or
Yeah, after 5
Yeah,
years,
but
it's
that's
variable.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's
Still-
kind of like
still
going to
really
like a
good.
local bank where we're
Yeah.
at, and they only give 5-year arms anyway.
Is it a local bank that you're working with?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Bank of Hawaii, American Savings Bank, they only have branches here.
Okay.
So that same loan where we're at, a local bank with a 5-year arm would probably have been like 6%.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's
Hawaii.
that's
There's
pretty
one
good.
thing in Hawaii that's cheaper than everywhere else.
Right?
So what would you say your current role is in your businesses? Like, what's your job?
I would say capital raising and being in charge of finances, especially with the flips, because a lot of them are not here.
Hmm.
So I'm in charge of making sure everything goes okay through escrow, maybe coordinating with the seller. And then from there, making sure that we have enough capital and raising it or securing it somehow. And then on the sales side, in charge of making sure things go as planned as well. And then in the meantime, I make sure that my partner out there is like, hey, we have this deadline, or where are we at with our budget for the renovations. And so they're able to keep track of that as well. And I'm just kind of like a double double checker.
So I guess you guys both kind of like analyze the deals and make sure that the numbers make sense.
Yeah. And I think just throughout the years, ever since I've been joining a few mentorships and making connections with people, I do have people kind of all across the United States. That's crazy to say that can check for me. I said, hey, I have this potential project in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Here's the numbers. This is what I'm looking at. I know an investor out there, and they'll say, okay, maybe this is a bad area. Oh, double check this. Or I have other people to lean on. And that's just the power of, networking.
So
Mhm.
then if you find the property in a specific area, how do you get in touch with the contractors?
So typically they'll send me the partner, whoever wants to me to come on the project, will send me some sort of bid from the contractor, and then I can call them directly and check, double check the numbers, or we'll all three hop on a Zoom.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's tough. I mean, Ryan's a contractor where we're at, and when I first started out, it was just super difficult just finding contractors, and I was in the area, so I couldn't imagine, um, you know, being out, in a different area and trying to find those good contractors
We
that can get
started
the
a
job done.
contracting business because we couldn't we couldn't keep contractors around while we were doing our projects when we first started investing. And my business partner and I were just like, we have to have this piece to the puzzle. We have to just do it ourselves. So we ended up just getting a contract license and using other people's projects to make money to invest in our own real estate. And we did the same exact thing with property management. In the beginning, we were like, we had 10 units or something, and we gave them all to, this was like year 2. We were managing them ourselves for 2 years. Then we gave them all to a property manager, and I was not happy with them at all. And I took all the bad things from their company that I hated, and I was like, I'm just going to also start a property management company. And that's when we started that, because it's like, it's so hard to find those people. So, but I guess having partners really does help because they have equity in it. They care. Do you have employees that help you, like on the day to day, like an assistant or something that's kind of helping you manage all this stuff?
Yeah, so I have a virtual assistant, and then I also have like 1099 contractors,
Okay.
subcontractors that help me with marketing, social media, just going through my emails. I am currently looking for an executive assistant. So if you live on Maui and are looking for a cool job and want to live in a cool place, hit me up.
That's right.
Okay. That's a good opportunity right there
Yeah.
for somebody, right? I mean, heck. So, all right. So now you're here, you're doing all the things. Where did you start? So what is the in between the sandwich here?
So I was raised here. I was raised by a single mom with my brother and my sister. My mom actually went through foreclosure while she was going through her second marriage. So we seen all of that, how that worked out. And we lived in low income housing here. And so it's crazy to think that's low income housing in Maui and Hawaii, but it still is very rough. So there's a lot of times where we didn't feel comfortable going home if my mom was working late and she worked, multiple jobs. So we would actually hang out at my high school. And we were lucky enough that one of my teachers, Mr. Gima, shout out to him, was very responsive and just like, was able to let me stay at the classroom late, or let me, back then they had those Apple computers with the colored backs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I would do my homework because I didn't have a computer at home either. And so um growing up, I had to be resourceful and make use of whatever was there. And so I even started working when I was 14, editing videos for that same teacher who had a student who opened his own company. And I said, I need a way to kind of help my mom or help us,
Mm-hmm.
we want, clothes or things like that. It wasn't too bad, but my mom made sure from the get-go, she made us like balance the checkbook to
Mm-hmm.
make us realize like, hey, we really don't have money. And so that's why I think to this day I'm really good with it. But as we grew up, my teachers had seen a lot of potential in me. So two of my teachers had actually pitched in for an application fee for me to apply to college. And back then there's not really any college fairs like there's out here. And we did have col- um, a high school counselor, but they had limitations to what they knew. But
Mm-hmm.
they had heard about this Gates Millennium Scholarship that came out. I applied to that and got it. And so I had a full ride
Wow.
all through college. I'm probably one of the few who ended up not in debt after I got out. Um, and then from there, went to Cal State Long Beach, flew to California, lived that life. It just completely opened my eyes. I think coming from a small town or a small island, you kind of get stuck in the way that everything is. And I mean, it's a beautiful place. This is a
Mm-hmm.
great place to to be stuck, but at the same time, it kind of limits your mind. And so
Right.
going there, and I had my first child while I was in college, so I had to push through that. And while I was there, I was majoring in liberal arts because I was like, I just got to get my degree and then move back home. But I was working as a counselor in the College of Engineering because I thought, hey, I want to help people. I liked how my teachers helped me, so this is how I want to give back. And going through that process, my boss was like, have you taken any engineering classes? Because you're helping these students that are, not doing well in their classes and you're pretty good at it. And I said, well, I don't think I'm smart enough. Like, don't you have to be super smart to be like an engineer? And so she was like, well, just try some classes. And so I think the underlying thing is like pay attention to those people in your life that are steering you in the right direction or believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself. Because I can say to this day, if it wasn't for those two integral points in my life, and also like my mom, I love her, thank you. But if it wasn't for those integral people in my life as I moved on and I listened to them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So after that, I moved home, was an engineer for 10 years, beautiful family, 2 kids now and a husband. And I was working 60 to 70-hour weeks as an engineer, stamping plans for subdivisions, hotels, shopping centers all across Hawaii. And I was tired. I remember my husband was just saying, man, like they're getting the best of you and we're getting the rest of you. And I was like, oh my God.
That's deep.
He was
That's deep.
right.
That's real
I
deep.
know. That's why I
God.
can always remember it. One, because it
Savage.
rhymes, but then two, it was just like, oh my gosh, shot to the heart.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with, my mom growing up was like, we didn't get that much time with her. And now I had a very supportive husband, which helped me a lot too, because he was able to pick up the kids, shower them, feed them. And all he was asking for was like a little bit of help, and a little
Hmm.
bit of time. Because even
Right.
on the weekends, I would go into work on Saturdays. So once I seen that, I was like, man, I got to change this route that we're going because it's not working for us and our family. And what, I am saying that is important to me, I'm not giving that time to them. And so I started Googling, like, hey, how to quit my job and get rich, or like, just like silly things
All the
like that.
keywords.
And that's okay. Like, you don't have to be the smartest person or do all the right things. It's just like act on how you feel. And, if you don't feel like you're fulfilling your purpose in life, change it up. It's okay. I felt bad because I was the first person from my family to graduate from college and get a degree, get a high paying job. And when I told my grandpa, especially, hey, grandpa, I'm looking to do, he was livid.
Hmm.
He was very upset, but he understood. So
Right.
you just got to, at the same time, do what's right for you.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing too because I know my family were my mom just being very nervous, right? And she
Mm-hmm.
wasn't they were regular people. My dad worked as an accountant at the railroad. My mom had her own little small equestrian business, and they were always about like security, security. They don't have any debt. They paid off everything. And I told her like, "Hey, I bought some properties. I'm thinking about buying some properties." And she's like, "That's not a good idea, Ryan. It's really dangerous. It's really risky. You can lose it all, blah, blah, blah." And I bought one and I told her, then I bought a second and a third and I told her. And then like 2 years later, when we're like have this full scale operation, I'm like, "Mom, I think I'm gonna quit my job." Or three, whatever it is. And we decided to just scale down my job. And the whole time she's saying, "That's really risky. I don't think you should do that." And if I had listened to her, then I would never be able to be here right now. And I'm so happy that I didn't, even though like I'm sorry, mom, but now I'm fine, and now she believes me and everything is great and she's proud. But in the beginning, I had somebody who's really important to me telling me that it was a bad idea what I was doing. And that's so hard to like get past that. And I did, luckily, but would have been very easy to just say, "You know what, you're right. Maybe I should just be a teacher forever." And I would have been a teacher for the next 30 years or whatever and not been here talking to you guys.
Yeah, so sometimes you got to take the leap.
Yeah, you got to take the leap. So you said your first job, real job, was an engineer. Did that help you at all in the real estate world?
I think because I was managing such big projects, it did because we already dealt with budgeting, we dealt with construction, underground utilities. So I understood the concept of everything and keeping timeline and budget, right? That's the most
Mhm.
important thing. So you're not bleeding money.
Hmm.
But as far as, and because I was a woman in, a job that was mostly male, I'm used to dealing with, contractors that are male or other people in the business that, might have different thoughts than me. I'm
Mhm.
okay with that. And
Right.
so I think that's what makes kind of me a little bit different. And even, as an engineer, I worked for a firm that was mainly Japanese, and they're like very old school, like very
Mhm.
strict and don't show emotion. But a lot of the times I got them to smile or laugh, or they just thought I was crazy. But at the same time, I get the job done. And I love bringing that side out of people. It's like, yes, we can do business, but you also have to find joy in whatever you're doing too. It
Mhm.
has to serve multiple purposes in order for you to feel fulfilled, or like, why just do something just for the money? And so
Right.
that is the underlying the kind of thesis of what I do now is I want to build wealth while making an impact. And my 10 rentals are rented, the long-term ones are rented to people either on Section 8 or rental assistance, because that's where I came from. And my flips as well, what we do is that we usually sell to first-time home buyers, or if it's a house in a cottage or a multi-unit property, we look at, okay, who's moving in? If it's a couple that's trying to take care of their parents, or people in dire circumstances, we won't always take the highest bid or always go with the cash offer. We kind of think, okay, we're putting a lot of our time and effort into this project. We want somebody in there that's going to appreciate it, or we
Mhm.
want to give somebody else a chance. And that's how we give back. And that's what I want people to know, is that like investors aren't always out for their money, right? There are certain ones that are, but there's different ways where you can still impact your community in a positive way as well.
Yeah.
So how did you get into, like, tell us a little bit about your first real estate investment deal that you bought, whether it was a flip or a rental.
So the first one I bought was a flip, because I was really aiming to replace my income and quit my job. And so I had gone to a foreclosure auction here at the courthouse, like probably the most intimidating place to start. And I went there and I was like, hey, how does this all work? And nobody would talk to me. Everybody was like, with their pen and paper and just waiting for the auctioneer to go on, and, or the attorney to, say whatever numbers they could start at in the bank. And it was really intimidating. So I actually went to a few before I actually started bidding, so I could understand how the process works here. Because, you can look up online and it says, oh, it varies by state. And it is true, right? Just like with the HELOCs, is it depends what state you're in to
Mm-hmm.
what
Mhm.
you can qualify for, what they'll give you. And so when I went through that process, I learned, okay, there's that initial auction, and then there's a hearing that happens after that, and people can still bid you up after that. And then, from there you close. And that whole experience was just, it, it taught me that that's not how I want to be. I guess the other investors I met there were very like scarcity, like, oh, if she gets it, then we don't get
Mhm.
it. And for me, I'm all about like abundance mindset. Like, hey, if you need help, or how can we work together, or how can I help you or point you in the right direction? But for that property, I ended up buying it at, I think it was like 312,000. And it was a condo. So a 2 bedroom, 1.5 bath, 700 square foot condo. And it is in Kihei, so in this area, and not in like a really nice area, just a very common area. But the thing about it is that when I went to go look at it, that a lot of people didn't see was that, one, even though it was a condo, the parking space, there was two parking spots, which is rare for like a 2 bedroom. And then to the left of you was like the emergency fire truck lane. So I don't know if you guys ever lived in condos, but it is very frustrating when you have to open your car door, be aware. So that's one thing. And then the second thing was the backyard was fully overgrown. But what I did is walk around the condo to see, okay, what, if we cut this down, what would it look into? And it was like a beautiful banana patch right in the back. I was like, oh my God, like this is money. And so a lot of people are like, oh, you paid too much for it. I was like, okay, we'll see.
So
Let's
how
see.
Mhm.
how did you even know, like, that you were in a, like, did you want to learn a certain amount before you decided to dive into it, or did you just dive into it? Like, what did you know before you went to that courthouse step to bid on that auction?
Basics. So I actually started listening to Bigger Pockets like every single day, just obsessed with the podcast, obsessed with the website, just researching everything that I could. And then I used the Bigger Pockets calculator to like, help me estimate things. And because my husband is actually a plumbing contractor. And so he bids a lot of jobs as well. And so he knows what it's like the overall cost. So he even walked in, was like, okay, yeah, what you estimated, they could probably do that around. He didn't do all the work at all, but he just kind of verified what I was already thinking. Because even though I had dealt with these huge projects, they're like million, 15, $20 million projects versus a $300,000 condo. So as far as like renovation costs, I wasn't really sure, but that helped me estimate it and calculate. And from there, it was about 30,000 to renovate. We did that in 30 days, and then we sold it at 475 or 480 um, in 15 days to cash buyer.
Nice.
So I net probably around 103,000
So
on my
was that,
first flip
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
in
that's
45 days.
Yeah, that's
that'll make you
awesome.
quit your job.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and then at my job, I was getting paid $70,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
stressed out, 60 to 70-hour
Right.
weeks. In 45 days, made more than I made in a year.
So that's a beautiful story. What was the problems? What was your first, like, what your first flip? What was the biggest problems that you had? Because making 100 grand is great,
Right.
but what got you there? Did you have some issues along the way, like learning experiences, contractor issues? Like, what kind of issues did you have?
So my idea of an investor was somebody who was in it every single day. So on lunch breaks, I would be calling the contractors, taking calls after work, running to Lowe's, running them materials.
Mhm.
I even took their dump truck and I was like, oh, it's full. I'll go take it to the dump real quick, So I think some of those um, aspects where I thought, okay, I'm saving myself money, it just costing me so much time, which I really wasn't, probably might have been getting in their way as
Mhm.
well. So that was an issue. And then also, I was basically the GC. I couldn't find a good general contractor out there. And so I decided to sub everything out. I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'll just sub everything out. One guy for flooring, one guy for painting, one guy to do tile. And it was just a hot mess as far as, even though we did all of that in 30 days, um, it was a lot of stress and a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, a lot of me running around doing things that I didn't necessarily need to do.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a huge learning experience, and I think when you first start out, you have to kind of like, you don't necessarily have to, but it's good to like put yourself in, in there, like, GC it yourself to see how it works out, just so you can understand the process, and then maybe, if you want to scale, you obviously have to get people in place. But I think that's a good foundation for a lot of people who are looking to start out. Like maybe they don't have extra funds to pay all these extra expenses, and they want to save as much as they can. So I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and just so you don't get ripped off too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know exactly how much time it takes now to go do a dump run. So if
Right.
someone's trying to charge you $2,000 to go to the dump, you'll know that that's kind of a ripoff.
That's right too, because now I had realistic expectations
Right.
on the timeline and the budget. And a lot of times I was like, hey, how can I save money? They're like, well, if you go buy the material yourself, then we don't got to run there. We don't got to upcharge.
Mhm.
And so that's why I was running material back and forth. But now that I look back, I was like, was it really worth my time?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you look back on it, it's not.
It's
but,
never
like,
worth your time if you
Yeah, yeah.
look back, but you
Right.
can't do that.
You can't
Be-
look back with
yeah.
you being in that same position
Right.
and say the same thing, because at that point it was worth your time,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. I mean, in the beginning,
It was a great learning experience just to know, even for me being an engineer prior to that, I was always in the office, right? So I didn't know what it was like to be like boots on the ground. We did site visits and
Mhm.
all that, but just to be in it with them, I think that gained a little bit more respect on their part as well.
Awesome. So did you buy a certain number of flips before you decided to buy a rental, or did you just find like the perfect rental deal and decide to keep that versus flipping it?
Well, I didn't know if I wanted to go all in on flipping or all in on rentals, because always heard like focus on one thing. And
Mhm.
so we got the flip under contract. There was another agent investor who was like, oh my gosh, I would buy this rental, but I just don't have the capacity right now. So do you want to buy it? And I was like, yes. I just like, it's crazy because once you say more yes to more opportunities, more of those come. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's what's happened along the way, and following all these mentors and just acting quickly so you don't get scared or you don't get analysis paralysis, but knowing that it is going to be a little bit more risky if you don't have all the numbers in place. So I like to always look from at it just like basics, right? Break everything down. It doesn't have to be um so intricate, and you don't have to know every single number before you buy a deal. So I knew that I could buy this rental. It was a condo at 95,000. I knew I could rent it out at 1,600. So I was like, okay, meets the 1% rule. Okay, how am I going to buy this condo, right? Do I qualify for a conventional loan? So we tried that and we did. And so that's how I essentially bought our first one. But after that, we didn't qualify anymore. Our DTI was too high. And so I was like, okay, what's the next steps? What do we do? And I actually went to a local bank here in Bank of Hawaii, and one of the tellers, um, I was talking to her. I was like, "Oh man, Auntie, I just spent," and that's what we call, like, just when you're close to somebody or you feel comfortable. I talk to this teller all the time, so I called her my
Mm-hmm.
auntie. She wasn't really my auntie, but once she told me that I could do like a cash out refi or a HELOC, and I was just like, "What is that? I never heard of those terms before." And found out about the BRRRR strategy, dug a little bit more into that. You buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. That's basically what I do for all my rentals now.
Which do you like better, flipping or rentals?
Rentals.
Yeah.
Rentals.
Because I feel like it's like letting go of your baby, right?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never heard anyone regret keeping a property. They've always regret selling it.
Yeah.
I regret selling this one property that we did buy that was near a golf course. So beautiful view, like 2-story, just like would have been perfect. I don't know. I always envision myself in that.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be a perfect rental, but I could never get something like that's worth $1 million now. I bought it at 400.
Mhm.
So we got quick coffee
coffee
delivery
break.
here. Quick coffee delivery. We'll keep this in. We'll keep this all
Yeah,
in.
come
This
on.
is
Right?
good
Bring it
content.
in. Bring it in.
Come on in. Nate the Tamer
I got,
guy. He got
French
one.
vanilla
Okay, we got it.
or caramel.
It's the more
Made-
natural feel of the
Right.
podcast
Yeah,
when people
This-
are walking in with coffees.
This is made with Aloha.
Yeah.
Made
Akamai
with
Coffee.
Aloha.
Shout out.
Look at that. Shout out to them.
When
all of our,
earlier-
all of our East Coast listeners are coming here and they're gonna get that coffee. Sweet. So you got into flipping. Now you're focusing more on the rentals and the bigger stuff, the syndications. Was there a point? Yeah, come on in, dude.
Thank you, sir.
Come
I
on in.
appreciate it.
Brandon just came in with cookies the other time, so we just
That's true.
keep it flowing.
Was there like a point where you like flipped a switch and started scaling, and did you know that was like happening at that point, or was it just like kind of a natural slow progression?
It was quick. So I bought my first flip and my first rental in 2019 at the end of the year, and then I was like, okay, I would just kind of do 1 or 2 deals at a time, and then I was like, wait. In order to replace my income at my job, then I have to move quicker. So December 2019, I joined a mentorship, Ryan Pineda, wealthy investor. And at that time, he had just started his mentorship. So there was only like 8 of us. And his first mastermind was in his living room. And so that was cool because now, there's thousands of students and everything. So I kind of got in at a good point. But when I went up to see him and we did the hot seat and everything like that, he was like, okay, you made $100K on your first flip and you make $70K at your job. So why haven't you quit yet? I was
Mhm.
like, my health insurance. He's like, how much is that? Okay, maybe 15, to 1,800. We get best care, and I have my kids on my plan too. So he's like, okay, so you're gonna let $1,800 a month stop you from living the life that you want and spending more time with your family. I was like,
Yeah,
all right, okay.
that's deep too. You've
Yeah,
got
I
all
know.
these deep moments in your career.
Well, and then
I've
and
never had that before.
So I went. The funniest thing was I went home and I told my husband, "Yep, I'm gonna quit." Ryan said to quit. He was like, "I've been telling you." So
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
true.
until somebody brings it up, and especially because he's a mentor, he was, at a level that was higher than me and very
Mhm.
successful at what he was already doing. So I listened to him and I did it, and went all in. And from there, just met other people through his mentorship and then a few other mentorships, been partnering. And I think a lot of people are scared to partner, which rightfully
Mhm.
so, right? Like not everybody is going to have the same intentions. But I think too, if you have, other connections with them or have known them for a while, maybe a year or 2 or something like that, or had seen their success previous and knowing their track record, then that might make you feel more comfortable. I'm not saying that you should partner.
Right.
It takes a level of communication that's important, a level of due diligence, and everybody's life
And compromise
changes,
too. I mean, it's
right?
like I have a business partner, and my wife jokes that he's like my second wife, or like that, because him and I are actually more financially tied together than my wife and I are,
Right.
which is like kind of scary, but it is that the partnership is what made it work so well.
Mhm.
He has his role and I have my role. And in the beginning, I couldn't afford to hire somebody for those roles. So there you go.
Mhm.
So that's a great way to start. So how many different partners do you have in all your deals that you're doing? Not like
Um,
syndications, I mean,
right,
but like
right.
just direct partners.
Probably right now, so I have 6 flips going on, so 5.
5 partners.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're all from all over the place.
Yeah.
Nice.
So they all so when I partner with somebody, they're kind of like the boots on the ground. They
Right.
know that area, they're tied to it. They have other projects going in that area, so they're very much in that day to day.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, even Brandon touched on partnerships, and you can definitely, like, I don't have any partners at the moment, but like I feel like to get to the next level and scale, like it would, having a partner to do one side of the business, and because Ryan and his partner, they seem to run it very well. Like his partner Tyler is like the boots on the ground. He's kind of like behind the scenes doing a lot of the
Lunches, business development type stuff.
yeah, and they seem to be doing it pretty well, and that's helped because
But in the
could you have
beginning,
done it on your own, right?
and
Like,
I don't know, maybe Zasha, you've had this experience with partners too. In the beginning, before we had like this operation that we had assistants and managers and this and that, we were finding ourselves doing the same job because it was such a small operation, and he had his way of doing it and I had my way of doing it. We would constantly like butt heads about that. And until we, I guess, were like big enough to separate our jobs completely, that's when we actually found peace with each other and we weren't like trying to bite each other's heads off. But it kind of sounds like you had that partnership with them having that direct role for a reason. Like we were just two gym teachers that got together to try to build a rental portfolio. So we were like stuck trying to fight each other doing the same job. But you're basically hiring a partner
Mhm.
essentially to
Yeah.
do the job that you're not doing. And
Mhm.
that's the way to do partnerships, is to
yeah,
hire a partner, find a partner to do the job that you're not able to do or
yep.
don't want to do. And
That's so
that's
good too, because again, that's what Brandon said when he built his fund. Like he built it from the top down, and he brought in an equity partner, and that's
yep.
just so eye opening to like opportunities when you can actually bring in partners and give them equity versus bringing them in and hiring them, on hourly, for example.
Yeah. Um, so this is one question that we didn't get to ask Brandon, and I'm not gonna forget it this time. It's, now that you have this operation going on, what is one thing that you find the most value in that you do? Like, we're gonna also talk about your social media, so maybe we can kind of link this together, with what you're doing to raise money and all that kind of stuff.
So I think the most valuable thing.
Yeah, the most
Like the most
value for
value
your
for your
time.
time.
Yep.
Okay, value for my time is connections, definitely that. And being able to see a need and connecting other people with what they need. So if somebody like, Brandon had posted on his Instagram story, hey, looking for a rock wall guy or something like that, and immediately connecting him like with my uncle who lives here or something like that, and finding out if there are people out there that you do want to connect with and how to add value to them, like find out what they need. But you can't, hey, what do you need? It's like if
Right.
you notice something, then immediately try to help them out in that way. And I think that's been my ability, a good ability of mine, is to see a need somewhere that somebody needs and then connect them.
So let's say there's someone out there listening who doesn't have a social media. How would you suggest they go out to make those connections that you're talking about?
uh, Join mentorships, join Facebook groups, go to events, host your own events. Like I have a Maui meetup, and I actually had a guest who couldn't make it a couple months ago, and I texted Brandon. I was like, Brandon, this is Brandon Turner. This person couldn't make it. Do you think you could come? He's like, oh yeah, I think, we have jujitsu, but maybe I'll show up after. And I was like, okay, I wasn't betting on it, but he showed up and he was the main speaker. So just having those, people kind of in your Rolodex, or people you can lean on, and adding value to them, definitely is a way that you can help out or be,
Solving other people's problems, it sounds like.
yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you find somebody that has more than you have and you solve a problem for them, and
Right.
There's your partnership.
Well, and then nowadays, with content, like everybody, that has to be a part of your business. Now,
Right.
if you want the reach and you want the amount of business that will kind of take you to the next level, is you have to document everything. And so even that, if you say, hey, do you need somebody, like I need somebody to film me, come around and film me as well. But you playing to that, because I have a big social media following, and it's all organic. So there's no pay. That's why I tell people, it's like, oh, should I pay for followers? I said no, because essentially, if you want to either partner with them, raise money from them, or, have a course or something to affiliate or something like that, then you need to do that to a real person. It can't be any
Right.
bots or spam people. And
So now that we're talking about that, and by the way, he lives here. He's a videographer. In case you need
I
an
know,
extra
now I
one.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I contacted like 10 video people off of just a random website, and I emailed all of them. I copy and pasted, just changed the name basically, copy and pasted the same thing. And he was the first one that contacted me, and he had everything that I asked for in the thing, like a price of this or that, the time. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's how you
So
have to do it.
when did you start your social media platform? Let's say Instagram, for example. When did you start that, and then how did you grow it to what it is now?
So I initially had it as my personal one, and that's what people always go back and forth. Like, should I turn my personal one into my business one? For me, it just made sense because all my friends and family were already following me. So they got to follow on my journey as now I'm becoming an investor. I'm investing in real estate. This is what the projects look like. And so from there, I kind of turned it into a business one, probably at the end of 2021. And Ryan Pineda had emphasized how his content and his social media platforms had helped him grow so quickly. And because the reach is there, right? You get to reach people all over the world. So I didn't really think too much of it. And especially when I first started, I maybe had like 1,000 followers. And then from there, I just continued to showcase like what I was doing. And then from there, think about, okay, what would they want to see or what would they want to know? And then geared my content towards that. So the end of 2021, I had about 10,000 followers. So I like really ramped it up. 2022 started with that 10K, then moved to 20 like mid-year, and then some videos went viral and then made it to 100,000.
Awesome.
Wow.
So did you have a strategy as far as like how many, like when you were starting to grow it, like how many videos you're going to post or how many reels you're going to post each
So
day?
I think 3 tips for increasing your engagement and your reach is: 1, reach out and comment on other popular, like Brandon Turner's page, right? Go on his posts and, add value to that. Hey, if you post about partnerships, oh, this is a great idea. I've partnered on this many deals, and people can see that you're kind of a little glimpse into who you are, and then they'll click on your page and be like, okay, he has some interesting content, I'll follow him. So that's one, is to engage with other bigger kind of creators in your space on their content. Then 2 is to engage with your current audience. So once you make a post, don't just post and leave the platform. Post, stay on, or keep checking it. If people are commenting, comment right back to them, so they say, okay, this person kind of cares or really cares about me. They're still on the platform and adding value, answering their questions. And then I guess the third one is just like consistency,
Yeah.
and like anything in life, right? Being
Do you
consistent.
have somebody that runs it for you? Are you doing all that yourself right
So
now?
I have a couple people that do help me out right now. And it's been great because I used to do it myself, and I was spending like 6 hours a day like on different social media platforms, and this includes LinkedIn as well. So right now I'm huge on LinkedIn because I'm trying to connect with more professionals in the space that want to be passive, and just have experienced operators like us run the deals and then put their money in, passively invest
So
and
your
grow their
last
wealth.
point was the consistency. Can you dive a little bit into that as far as like, are you posting one reel a day, a few every week or so?
Yeah, so at least, if you go from 0 to like posting 3 every day, that's gonna probably burn you out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also want to make it more personal. So like if you have a podcast like this, posting podcast clips, but you also don't want to overwhelm your audience because they don't want to see you every time they're like scrolling. So if you're a smaller 1,000 to 10,000. Try to post every day, but even if you post every other day, that's fine. But really make sure to share background of your life in your stories. So that's where people really get to know you on a different level, because it's not so dry and cut and like, professionally edited. It's like more raw and the everyday millionaire, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So this morning I posted me like getting ready to come to this podcast, and people eat it up. They love it. And actually a lot of my private lending calls are people that want to invest their capital in deals. I'm like, oh, what do you like about what sets me apart from these other multifamily syndicators? And they're like, oh, well, you're a good mom and you showcase your life and your kids and your husband. And I'm like, okay, I
Yeah.
would think it would be the deals, but
They feel like they know
Yeah,
you.
they feel like,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
It's the same. We've had our second meetup as like a podcast, and we
Mm-hmm.
have a content guy that comes. We do that, and it was weird because people would come up to me that I didn't know at this event and say, "Hey," and mention a story that I didn't even remember talking about with you or anybody on the show, and they would be like, "Hey, like you did this deal, like what?" And I'm like, "How? Like that's weird because I don't know you, but you know about me." And that's what made that connection. And now one of his friends that did that exact thing to me, I'm managing one of his properties now.
Mm-hmm.
Like my assistant's processing his thing right now. So that in itself is, super important, is sharing the story. And that's one of our goals. We haven't been very good at the consistency of it, but it is one of our goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, when you do share about your life, like how you said, people feel like they're building a relationship with
Mhm.
you. And so I've been able to raise over $5 million just off starting on, I would say, starting
Starting.
on Instagram,
Right.
starting that touch point, hopping on Zoom calls. They're like, oh, it is really you, because they're, I don't know. It's like Brandon Turner, right? When you first, we were like, oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, we're all just real people. And I think when people realize that and they feel comfortable with you, it opens that door to many different opportunities, or you'll always be top of mind to them, right? They're like, I'd rather help you than help like a big corporation or people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're always going to want to do something with somebody they have a relationship with before it's some random person. So what is your definition of financial freedom? We asked Brandon this, and how it shifted your definition from when you started to now.
So financial freedom when I started would be being able to quit my job and take care of the bills that my everyday bills. That would be financial
Mhm.
freedom when I first started. Now it's all about time, uh, flexibility, and to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Like you guys called, hey, can we move this podcast up an hour? Okay, sure. Oh,
Mm.
can we go to lunch afterwards with Brandon Turner? Okay, sure. That flexibility to be able
Yeah.
to do whatever you want, not restricted by anybody else's timeline. And then also not needing to request for time off, or even though we're entrepreneurs, we still work kind of 24/7. So we
Right.
work more than we did when we were employed, but it's for ourselves and we can shift that time around. So
Right.
that's financial freedom to me, means that, I have more control over my time and my life.
Nice.
Awesome.
So that there's no, I kind of asked this before with Brandon too. Is there like a number that you're looking for? And has that number changed? Like, have you increased your lifestyle since all of this has happened?
So my passive income goal was $10,000 a month.
That's funny. That was my passive
Yeah.
goal too in the beginning. That's like what I wanted to get to.
Right. That's everybody, like 10, right? That's the safe number. And then so now it's 20, and this is net. So after all
Right,
expenses,
right,
after
right.
emergency funds, all of that. So now it's 20. And it shifts. I like to tell people too, like your net worth shifts, all your passive income shifts depending on how much leverage you use. Like it's not one consistent number that continues to go up. Like I just took
Mhm.
out 4 HELOCs. So now my net worth is going to shift because I have a lot more debt on my plate if
Right.
I pull those out. So that's very important to realize, and your risk tolerance. So I would say, it'll always go higher, but I haven't increased my expenses at all, really. Even Ryan Pineda, he gave me a Rolex on stage at his last mastermind. And I was like, oh, cool. He was like, oh, you're not like surprised? And I was like, I mean, it's a watch. It's like,
Yeah.
I shop at Ross. So it's like, what, like $200? It's
Yeah.
like $15,000. I was like,
Crazy.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
Hey.
I mean, I'm not even, love it. But that's not the type of person that I am. So I've never been flashy or anything like that. Drive a simple car, live in the same house that I have the last 4 years. That was a foreclosure. And I like to keep it simple. Now, mind you, my goal this year, though, is to buy a beach house on Maui. So if I can have that, then everything else can stay the same. But I do have big goals for myself and my family and the quality of life we want to live. And we did hire out like a guy to do our yard, like
Yeah,
little things
yeah.
like that to buy back our
Just
time.
get some time back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's extremely important, especially for the people listening. A lot of times when people make more money, they kind of just, their lifestyle just goes up with it to where they're
You're
essentially still
netting the
broke.
same
Yeah.
almost.
So it's important that, even though you make more money to kind of keep your lifestyle remaining consistent, as long as you can. That way you can just keep compounding the money that comes in.
Right. And I think it's important to know where you're at in life as well, because with me and my husband, we have the agreement is like he takes care of the now, I take care of the future.
Hmm.
So him and his company pays for everything we need today. And then ours goes towards building our wealth, buying more
Hmm.
investments. So we're constantly reinvesting our money. And initially, too, when I was working my job, I would make sure that we lived off 50% of our expenses. Now
Hmm.
that's extreme to some people. I was always going to Costco, buying $5 chickens, like spreading it out as
Yeah.
long as we could, making different recipes with that. But I was okay with that, and so was he. So we just came to realize that there's a bigger purpose and a bigger dream that we want to have and live. That material things don't really matter to us, and we live on an island, so we can go to the beach. That is the best free amusement that you could have with kids. So that helps too.
Yeah.
So, what is it like getting? Now we're gonna go into as a contractor, I have some contracting questions for Maui because
Hmm.
my whole group of guys that we're with here are all real estate investors, and we were all just talking about how the logistics would work doing this kind of work. How is it getting materials on such a small island? Do you guys? I saw Home Depot when we landed at the airport. And I almost was tempted to go in and check it out, but we didn't.
Compare prices.
Yeah, Home Depot's like my
Right.
favorite place in the world. So, how is
I'm
it?
a Lowe's girl.
Oh, so you guys have Lowe's
Lowe's for
too.
pros. Yeah.
And do you find a lot of problems with getting materials here because everything has to be like shipped on a boat?
So we adjust. So say there, especially I think it mainly is with appliances, because even with tile and everything, you can kind of switch it. Lumber, there was certain times where there was a shortage, especially during COVID when things stopped shipping here. We stopped planes and all
Hmm.
that. It was, a dead stop here. But for the most part, you just kind of pivot with your design,
Right.
and you just learn that that's just how it is. So in one of my homes, it was kind of a cookie cutter home, but there was no over the stove microwave ovens. And
Mm,
so, but they did have one of those drawer, like pull out drawer microwaves. I was like, oh my gosh, this does not belong in this house.
right.
And it's like $2,000 versus $300. So
Yeah.
we had to just make some shifts in the budget and in the layout of the kitchen in order to just put that in there and
Right.
have all the sets match.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we have trouble sometimes with random things where we're at, and we're like in the metropolitan DC, Baltimore area. Like, I couldn't imagine what it's like to ship things on a boat to whatever you need.
Well, that's why it's not even worth waiting. So even
Right.
when they're like, "Oh, this appliance will take 6 to 8 weeks," it's like, no, we're shifting to something else and going to
Right.
use either another style or figure out, what other type. Like I said, there's a drawer. I didn't even know there was drawer microwaves
Yeah.
until recently.
They're
Until we
expensive
had that.
though. Like you
Yes.
said, they're expensive. And the cabinet, and then you need a special cabinet to put them in
Mm-hmm.
too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been through that before. So, do you invest in other islands in Hawaii or just Maui?
Yeah, so all the islands. So
All the
I had
islands.
a flip on Oahu. I currently have a flip on the Big Island, and then majority of them are here on Maui.
Nice.
And
Hmm.
when you do flip on different islands, do you travel there to check them out?
It's almost the same as having one on the mainland, so
Mm-hmm.
on the U.S. continent. I should clarify. My partners there are usually, like I said, the boots on the ground. They manage the
Hmm.
contractors. They're in it day to day, and I just am in charge of the capital and making sure that we stay on the timeline and the budget.
Gotcha.
Nice. All right. So we got one more question. I don't know if you got one more. We always do at the end goals. So one personal goal for your personal life and one business goal, like for your overall business.
One personal goal is to get in the best freaking shape of my life.
Okay.
Which is probably coffee is not really helping me. But that is definitely a goal because, like with anything else, health is wealth. And I used to be that 4 a.m. in the morning, morning routine, read Atomic Habits and just got
Hmm.
super motivated for years. And then after a while, I think, you get comfortable too. You're like, okay, I work so hard and staying up later and later and kind of fell out of it. So now I'm coming back into it. And I don't really eat much, but then when I do, I like snack a lot, like in the evenings, or I'll just, like in the morning, just have a ton of coffee, which also has sugar. So, one, best shape of my life, personal goal. Professional goal, I'm in the process right now of starting a fund
Okay.
for multifamily syndications. And so I partnered with a few other really experienced operators. And that's something, if you're just starting out, that is a little bit more technical, but don't ever think that, even for me, I'm involved in 4 multifamily deals and I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm such a newbie. I'm just getting started. But you still have value to add. So for me, I think back, okay, I was able to raise, $5 million through social media for my flips. Like, how can I apply this to multifamily? And people see value, like I said, with content or your reach or your engagement, like how many people you have access to. My newsletter reaches like, over 20,000 people. And that's how I'm able to now say, okay, this is a value that I can bring to these bigger projects. And I think it comes with experience and you have to, of course, have a good track record. It's not like you could just jump into
Right.
multifamily and just because you have a big following now, that's all the value you have. But just really, don't discredit yourself. And for me, I never really celebrated my small wins. I always thought like they were, my wins were wins, but they were not, oh, but Brandon Turner is buying all this stuff, and that a comparison is the thief of joy type of situation. But now I know that, everybody's goals in life are different and what you want to achieve is different. And after going to a few of these conferences for multifamily, I'm like, hey, I really did, I'm not a beginner as I think that I am.
Right.
But yeah.
That's awesome. Zasha, are you good, Nick?
Yeah.
You got some questions?
No, I'm
No, you're
good.
good?
Yeah.
Zasha, thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking forward to going to lunch and hanging out and
Yep. Thank you.
getting to know you better. Have a
Thank
good,
you guys.
yeah. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah. And if you guys want to reach out to me, my website is zashasmith.com. Follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And I do still check, a few of my messages as well. And if you ever have any questions or ever on Maui, hit me up and we'll see if we can meet up.
All
Great.
right. Make sure you're following us on Instagram too. That's one of our goals this year, growing that Instagram. So Everyday Millionaire Show on Instagram. We
Yep.
appreciate it. Thanks, guys.